Welcome to our Intro to Xcode series. In this series, we're looking at the programming language Xcode, otherwise known as Swift. We will start at the very basics of Xcode and work our way to developing some complex single view applications. So let's get started. Now the first thing you're going to need to do is download a copy of Xcode. Now on the App Store, you can see I've just searched for Xcode over here in the search bar, and it will bring you up with a bunch of different applications. The one we want is the one that just says Xcode Development Tools. If I click on that, it gives you a little preview of what Xcode is all about, the ratings it's got, a few reviews and so on. What yours should say download it, install there. So once you've downloaded it, yours should say open to, and I'm just going to click that to get started, and you'll see it'll fire up Xcode just like that. Now over here are some old Xcode projects that I've done. Yours will be blank there. Now the first thing I'll get you to do is click on create a new Xcode project. So click on that one and it'll open up. And we're going to click on a single view application and then go next. That just means we're only going to be working on one window. So kind of like iPhone apps that have, Instagram has 4 or 5 different windows. We're just working on one. Now my name is in here under organization name. So you want to put your name in there. And organization ID, you would just want to put whatever you want in there. And the product name, I'm going to call this intro to Xcode. And then make sure this is set to Swift, no Objective-C. And the rest of this can stay off, and we're going to hit next. And it'll say you should save this somewhere. I'm just going to save mine on the desktop. I'm going to make a new folder called Intro to Xcode, and then I'm just going to create it there. Cool. Now it's going to open up like this. Now Xcode looks a little daunting to begin with because there's lots happening all over the page, and some of your other programming languages are pretty blank. Ours has heaps that you can do all over, which is great for advanced users, but for new users looks a little scary. So don't worry about this too much. We only really use this when we start getting towards publishing apps and so on. But for now, we don't need to worry about that. Now you'll see Xcode is split up into, and I'm going to make it full screen here. Xcode is split up into sort of 3 separate areas. You've got your left side here, which has all your project files. You've got your middle here, which is where most of the editing gets done. And then you've got the right side here, which is where all your properties and so on is set. Now you can see at the top, you can toggle these. If you want to, you've also got the bottom here, which is where we have like programming errors and all of that going on, but we don't use that so much yet. So if you want to focus just on one area, you can maximize it out so you only have that. You can't really get rid of the middle, but you won't ever really need to either. Now the main ones we use on the side over here, you'll see it always starts with a main storyboard and a view controller. Let's click on main storyboard. And it'll take a second to load. You'll see it kind of gives you your basic iPhone layout here. You can make it an iPad layout or whatever, but we're just going to go with an iPhone layout. And you can see it looks kind of like an iPhone screen. And that's because that's where we do all of our editing. We also had another little box open just here. And this is our view controller scene. So this is everything that's happening in here. It goes just there. And we can toggle that with that one down the bottom there and open it back up. So everything that we do in here will appear here, which when we start doing things, you'll see more options start coming down here. Now in our view controller, if we click on the top here, we're selecting it. And you'll see now we've got our property window open. In our property window, we can look at all the different settings, and you'll learn more about this later, but all the different settings and things you want to change. You can also change the size, where you want the top bar, all of that stuff just in here. The more we build applications, the more you'll learn to use this and so on. Okay, now at the bottom here, this is where we have our library, and I'm going to make mine a little bigger for now. A lot of the tools we use, and yours might have started like that, a lot of the tools we use are found in here. And the majority of what we're going to be doing is found in this little home button just there. It's called the object library. So you should be quite used to some of the stuff you're seeing in here now. So for example, you've got buttons, and just to put them on, I just drag it across like this. And you can see those lines pop up to automatically center it and so on. So try playing around with these, grab a few in. I'm just pulling a few buttons and text fields and bits and pieces in. In fact, try and get all the exact same as me, because we'll be using a lot of these in videos coming up. There we go. There's a few. And probably a label, that's really important too. So there's a few there on our app. And you can see it'll center them all. They've all been centered to the middle, which is great. What we want to do next is we want to actually run this as an application, because this is the only other thing that we'll look at in this video, just the introductory video. We're going to run them as if it was running on an iPhone. And you can see up here, depending on your version of Xcode, you may not have as much as I do here, but you can run it on iPads, iPad Pros, iPhones, iPhone Pluses, all the way down to the iPhone X. So I'm going to click the iPhone X. And if I hit play, it'll take a sec. It'll compile, it'll say build succeeded. Now, if you've got an error somewhere, it won't say that. It'll say build failed, and it will show you where. Now, I've got to minimize this just for now because it opens up as a simulator. And there we go. You can see there's the iPhone X, and it'll load when it's ready. It'll load. There we go. Now you can see that thing I was talking about earlier. It has all the outputs, and later on we learn what they mean. And if there's an error, they come down there and so on. But you can see our app is loaded. Now, if yours is really massive, under Window, you can click physical size and it will change it down to what an iPhone really looks like. You can see you can actually interact with this stuff in here. So you can switch the button, you can click it first to second. You should be able to click the input and you can see it pops up with the keyboard and so on. Okay, and so that's our simulator. Now I'm going to simulator and quit. And then I'm going to open this back up again. There is one more thing I talked about over here, and that was the view controller. So we're going to click on that now. And this is where all the main coding happens. Now, two things always pop up instantly. You may choose to use these, you may choose to not. For now, we can always just delete them when we start, and you'll see you've got a little bit of code here that says class, which just means this is where we're doing all of our coding in. And you've got these little curly brackets at the end, which link up, which saying everything in here is part of this class. And so if I delete one of those, you'll see it pops up with a little error. There it says, you know, you haven't closed the class anywhere. And if I close the class, you'll see a little yellow pops up just there when I do it, indicating that that's a complete circuit now, so to speak. So this is where all of our coding's done. What normally happens is you click on your main storyboard and you have it here like this. And then up here next to these two little circles next to each other, these rings, if you click that, you'll see it looks very squashed now, but you get the two side by side. And this is used a lot. So make sure you can do this and you know this functionality. What I did just then was I just minimized that because I didn't want that. And as I talked about earlier, if you're not using the side, you may choose to close the sides just so you can work on the two like this, side by side to each other. So we're going to end the first video there. That's just an introduction. It gets you started with your first program or first project and it gets you running it on a simulator. So I hope you've learned something in your first tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.